Outside has always been my place. Ever since I left the hotel room above my mother's belly. I know you're outside too, with pen and book and jar of memories of how we got ourselves here. I feel it too, and I know you do. Every step is erased, but we're here now, and we'll find our way back soon. So, in the meantime, welcome home.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 4th episode of The Culture. We are happy to bring yet another episode to you. And on today's segment, we have none other than Petronella C. Nyirenda, popularly known also as the Scarlet Knight. Petronella C. Nyirenda is a poet, a spoken word artist, and a creative artist within the Zambian Creative Industry and Arts. Petronella C. Nyirenda has got the 2016 Bittersweet Poetry Championship Slam to her name. Petronella has published a series of miniature poetry series collections, and Petronella is at the forefront of pushing the literature and poetry scene within Zambia. So Petronella, please tell us a little bit about yourself as a poet, as a creative, and as a stakeholder in the Zambian creative industry and art.
I think I can start off by saying, by profession, I am a civil and environmental engineer.
Amazing.
While I do that, I also am a spoken word artist. I am also an author of 2 chapbooks currently, working on a 3rd. I began in Zambia, meaning I was born in Zambia, but I did move with my family to Nigeria for an extended period of time, and then to Ghana, and then returned back into Zambia around 2011.
Awesome.
Yes, so most of my childhood, if not just my general childhood, has been outside of Zambia.
Okay. So is it fair enough to say that perhaps some of your inspiration stems from Nigeria or Ghana? Or did you really get into your own in the creative side of things once you got back to Zambia?
I think on the performance level, I only got introduced to that when I first came back to Zambia. But the building blocks of learning, of reading, just learning how to write, practicing and dabbling in different forms of fiction, whether it's thriller or mystery and that kind of thing. I had all those while I was in Ghana. Nigeria was more for my primary school, so it was just about being a kid. One thing I will say is that the Western side, meaning Nigeria and Ghana, they're quite appreciative of the arts. Granted, the mentality that you still need to get a job, you still need to go to school, was there. We were still allowed that freedom and that creativity to dabble in arts. So I did do many mediums for painting, using charcoal, using pastels, using cotton, wood, and all that kind of stuff. But then it was also about, you need to have the fundamentals, you need to finish school, you need to learn how to read, write, you need to learn how to do math and things like that. So I kind of had both in Nigeria, and that was the basis of my desire to know more and my desire to learn, because it was in my school system. And so it became part of my lifestyle.
100%.
So when I did move back to Zambia, and even though it wasn't as much of an art-based situation, I think the closest thing to an art subject would be maybe GMD. Yeah, that would be the closest thing.
GMD, or I mean, perhaps if, because there's English language and there's English literature. In some schools, and English literature allows you to dive into more creative writing, inspired by the likes of Shakespeare, West African authors like Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart, and they ask you to analyze or critically try to understand what the metaphors or the hidden meanings and that sort of thing are.
So I think what I can say is, in this setting, it's more about having that perspective and understanding. So it was a practical session while in Nigeria and Ghana, but then being in Zambia, it's more of, what do you understand? What can you get from this? So they kind of do come together to form the person that I am now. I think that's what I'll say.
That's awesome. getting right into the mix, a lot of people might assume, oh, okay, she's an author, or she's a poet, or she's a spoken word artist. What is, if any, difference between those different labels and titles?
So there is spoken word, and then there's written word. Written word has to follow the rules of the English language. You cannot change spellings, you cannot change where certain punctuations are supposed to be or certain words are supposed to be used. And with that, you kind of have a more systematic structure of how you're supposed to write in order to convey certain feelings.
Sure.
When you're on stage performing this poetry, all rules don't apply. If you want to say redded, you can,
Yes.
for the sake of emphasis.
Yes.
So when you're on stage, it's more about what feeling are you trying to evoke, what story are you trying to tell, and so it's by any means necessary when you're on stage.
Sure.
Granted, there's some certain etiquettes that you should have when performing, but the general rules do not apply when you're on stage.
I see. And in the build-up to this interview, I know that there are a lot of colleagues or peers within the poetic world that have really given praise to your subject matter, your style of delivery, and overall your artistry. And namely one that I spoke to recently, which a lot of people might or might not be familiar with, is Destro. And I actually played you the message that he left for you.
Yeah.
And to sum up what he said is, he said, Petronella is a hero, and Petronella is someone that has made a transition between being a performance artist that does spoken word, and she has also made sure she commits to the literature side of things, where you document your poems, you put them in a written format, maybe in a book or in a soft copy PDF, and you're actually giving text that people can keep and go back to whenever need be, instead of just one performance that is done and cannot be referred to later. Okay. What has given you this sense of purpose that you want to give people material that they can go back to, or something that they can access at a later stage or time?
My sense of purpose comes from my faith, which is the source of everything I do.
Yeah.
What I do believe is that I've been given a gift, and whether that gift is of service to others or of service to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, it's important for me to use that. In essence, I've been made a steward of this gift, and if I don't use it, then when I do give account, I have nothing to say, which is ironic because technically speaking is the gift that I've been given.
Sure.
When it comes to creating works that people can revisit, that came about because of the times that I'm in. It's important for people to have things to go back to. It's important for people to be able to know that if I'm feeling this kind of way, I can go back to this piece, I can go back to maybe even this sentence, and I won't feel so alone because I know this person is going through the same thing.
100%.
On the execution side, I believe it was the easiest thing for me to execute. There are a lot of details and a lot of nitty-gritty things that go into video and audio, and I figured, let me just do this one thing for me. I'm able to write, I'm able to type. By God's grace, I've been given resources where I can do both of those things. So why not do that and create a package for people to have it? So it's kind of like a therapy for myself, but then for other people. So if they do relate, they can use it. Yeah. And if they don't, they probably have someone who would also like want to see the work.
That's an awesome perspective on it. And I think for me personally, being a fan of your work, a fan of poetry at large, and a poet myself, I feel like apart from poetry offering you a medium or a means of communicating to yourself and to other people, I feel like it's a great way of enabling someone to perfect their understanding of words, letters, language, the use of certain terminologies, or expressing yourself accurately. And for me, poetry has proved to be a very great channel for doing those things. So to someone else who has a love of words or putting them in a particular sequence or strategy, how would you advise them to go about it or get better? I mean, in my intro, I mentioned that you are the 2016 Bittersweet Poetry Champion. That's no small feat, because there's amazing poets that you went up against and poets that are in the same fraternity.
Yeah.
How do you go about being a good poet?
I think it starts from reading, because when you're on stage, you're essentially a teacher, and you can't teach what you don't know. So it starts from reading. When you read, you learn how to structure a plot. You learn how to put words in a sentence in order to convey a particular thing. You learn different words for different actions depending on the intensity of those actions. Because, for example, if we're talking about someone, maybe someone said a joke, and then there are different forms of laughter as a response to that one joke. But you'll only know those different words if you read, if you research, if you look through the dictionary. Sometimes the words, you stumble upon those words. Other times you have to actively look for those words. So the first key is to read. My mentor, I think one time I got off stage and I knew I hadn't done a good job writing, because when I was writing, I was like, I've used this word several times, and I couldn't think of any other word to replace it. And when I got off stage, he congratulated me, but then the next thing he just said, "You're not reading, go pick up a book." And it makes you feel a kind of way, because I knew it and then it's been affirmed, even though the audience can't really tell. But the first advice would be read. The second would be to practice. And then the third would be quality control. You need to have people who are gonna be honest with you, even if it's gonna hurt your feelings.
Simon Cowell style.
Yeah. And family is the most effective. Because one thing I do know is my whole family supports me, but they are not poetry enthusiasts. They do not listen to poetry for fun or for anything, but they listen to my work, and they're able to, and when they appreciate it, I know that it means some measure of value, because I've gotten to this person who does not have the same interest as I do, but they're able to appreciate the art form. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, so those are vital tools if you're aspiring to be a poet.
Yeah.
And in such, I don't know if the right word to use is turbulent or trying or perhaps challenging times such as this. We've just gotten into 2021. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world about corona, about certain political issues, socio-economic issues. Is this potentially an avenue or a means of people being able to put some of that emotion into creative avenues such as poetry? Is it therapeutic maybe to write? Is it something that can help your mental? Is it something that can help you?
Yes. And my yes encompasses everything you've just said. Poetry, I'll start with art in general. Art in general is therapeutic, because if you are able to express what is going within you, it's no longer within you. You are able to share the feelings that you're having or the thoughts or opinions that you have in a respectable manner, of course. But when you are able to accurately communicate how you feel or what you believe in a measure, it takes a burden off yourself, because you know that you've explained it to the best of your abilities. And if that person chooses to pick it up or not has nothing to do with your person. Concerning the times, with sharing with one another, I think sometimes people don't know how to express themselves. And so artists are there to kind of carry them through. So perhaps with the political standing that's going on right now, or maybe even just with COVID, people are feeling hopeless. And they're not able to tell that it's hopelessness they feel. But when you explain that, no, I feel lethargic, I feel as if there is nothing I am doing that amounts to much, because there was the whole debate for essential workers and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
When you're able to kind of string that along, whether it's a story, whether it's an imagery or that kind of thing, people are able to see, okay, yeah, that is pretty much how I'm feeling. That is me in this current state, and it does help people. It doesn't have to be poetry, it doesn't have to be words. People can look at images and feel better. People can throw paint on walls or on paper and feel better. People can dance, even though they're not actual dance moves. Just being able to move yourself through your senses is enough to have someone feel slightly better than they did at the beginning.
I hear you. We've had discussions about, so Petronella really loves to use one particular metaphor, and I'm always teasing her about it. I see it in her writing. She likes to refer to life as a journey, and each moment or each particular event being perhaps a particular destination that she's reaching in that journey. Where does that come from, Petronella?
I think it comes from my upbringing. Having to move constantly makes you yearn for home. Being on the road a lot makes you wish you could stop and rest.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's always this uncertainty if I should be in a particular place for long.
Or not.
There's always this feeling that I can't invest 100%, or rather, let me invest 100% because I don't know how long this is gonna last.
Sure.
So they're very contradictory feelings. All I know is that I'm still moving. Even if I haven't figured it out, I'm still moving. Even though I'm confused, I still have to move, because if I stop moving, then I feel like I'm invisible. So even in my art, there are moments where I disappear and then I come back. And when I come back, I feel like I'm gonna have to rebuild this house, because out of sight, out of mind, people have forgotten the stuff that I do and that kind of thing. And I always have to kind of remind myself, you have put in the work. Even if you kind of left, you're back, build a wall.
Yeah.
You go, come back, put a window. And so that kind of consistency is something in that journey that I'm always describing. I'm trying to just keep moving. I think that's the one consistent thing, is just keep moving. So.
And I think I've told you this before, you're one of my favorite poets. But in the recognition of this, I don't, maybe it's just me, I don't feel I see enough female poets. I don't think just because I haven't heard them, there aren't any other top tier poets in the Zambian context, but maybe you can speak on that. Can you educate me on why, how, or what exactly, what have you seen within the industry in regards to female poets and being at the upper echelon of the art?
So I will first say that I don't speak for all women.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because people's sense of duty and obligations, they differ from person to person. So if someone is not seen online, if they're not seen performing, then I should think, in my opinion, it means that the art that they do create is particularly for them. And they choose to keep it for them as a means of, like we said before, therapy, or as a means of just being able to know how to communicate what they feel within themselves to other people when need be. I will also say there hasn't been any blueprint on how to do any of this stuff. I think that's one thing. We're kind of scrambling around trying to figure it out for ourselves. And so some wouldn't want the attention during the phase of growing. I've had the pleasure to witness a lot of female artists who are exceptional. I could even say they're better than myself if it's not stage performance, writing, or even just the whole package. But concerning the spaces that they are in now, it's not possible for them to move. So they're not that they're stuck, but the ability or the capacity for them to make this a thing is either not what they want, they do not know how to do it, or they don't have the means.
Would there be any hindrance from us, the male sex? Would we, be completely candid, would the ego of the male want to assume that the poetical or the poetry Zambian scene is something we have tried to dominate or might not necessarily give enough credit where it's due? Because if we don't talk about it, we're not able to affect change in people's perception.
Concerning the men, the males, I think because, and I perhaps let me phrase it this way, men are in a way more outgoing, they're more of go-getters, not saying that women aren't, but I think things that pertain to
Putting
yourself out there for scrutiny is quite, it's quite an intimidating thing.
Yeah.
And I think whether it's realized or not, it's a lot to take in. I think just on a daily basis, we are already scrutinized for quite a lot.
Yeah. As soon as you step out the door.
Exactly. How you keep yourself, how you speak, how you treat others. Granted, that can be for both male and female, but when addressed to a female, it means she's unkempt. It means she's lazy. You know, there's so many.
It means she might not be wifey material.
Exactly.
There are all these
with
irrelevant tags that we have allowed stereotypes to sort of burden.
Yeah, and I think because of the setting that we're in, because we're mostly governed by traditional rules and traditional expectations. So, you know, when you don't want to do something, it's seen as, oh, but then what if, you know, how will you raise your children?
Yeah.
What if, perhaps if I don't want to cook something, like, no, but I don't like eating it, so I don't want to learn how to cook it. No, but like, what if your husband wants to eat it every day? And I'm like, I could learn it for the sake of having the skill, but not because, I would like that I'm seen as an individual. I think one of the issues is that when you see a woman, it's as if she represents everyone else. Yeah. So that individualism is not recognized.
And just for the record, I feel, seeing as this is a creative avenue in space, that's something that we really need to break. And through breaking those types of stereotypes and those sort of boundaries, we'll have more and more people such as Petronella emerging from our industry. And that will enable us to have more women or females at the table with brilliant ideas and brilliant stories to give us. Now, Petronella, is there a difference between the art and the artist?
Yes and no. I say yes because the way you see someone on stage, although there are people who marry it perfectly, who blend perfectly, but when you see perhaps someone like me on stage and then you see me in person or even in this interview, I'm not as cool and collected as I would like to be. I'm not as precise as I would like to be. And so I would say there is no difference in the sense that who I am is just the same as who I am on stage. But then the difference comes in is I've created this other version in order to be able to communicate effectively to an audience who wants to listen to what I'm saying. Yeah. So there's no room for error. It's kind of like a Petronella 2.0 where I have to kind of be in that zone. I have to get everything right. I have to be able to know that when you see me, you see exactly what I'm trying to let you know and trying to let you understand. So
I see.
Yes and no.
So Petronella on stage, that is wowing us with the alliteration, the metaphors, the delivery, the rhyme schemes. Is that the same person that has just finished the engineering degree?
Yes. Same person.
Very good.
Same person.
Very good.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to art, all in all, the person giving you the art is the artist, the art is one thing, but the inventory that the artist uses to make the art comes from who they are as a person.
Yeah.
But I do know that some artists prefer for there to be that distinct line, perhaps because when you're walking at the mall or when you're running some errands, you perhaps are in a different space, so you want to be processed as that. Some people love the limelight and the attention.
Yeah.
Some people say, clap for me while I'm on the stage, but when I'm off the stage, just talk to me like a normal person.
Yeah.
But I guess to some extent it's each to their own, but it's definitely still in the same person.
Yeah.
Even an alter ego is sourced from an actual
The person,
individual.
yeah.
So I understand and I get you there. Petronella, there's a weekly type of series and format that when I hopped onto Facebook, I saw you do. And that was something that was awesome because depending on what time it is, there's a certain series or theme or streams of thought that you give to people that are willing to absorb it. It's in the form of a newsletter that's dispersed weekly, I believe, when it's going on. Talk to me about that. Does that make you feel like you're giving people something that gives them a regular dose of your creativity? Or is that something that you feel should become a norm with artists and communicating to people that follow or support them?
So I guess beginning with the miniature series, it was a way for me to give people who engage with my work something more. Not in terms of a reward, but being able to say that I see you appreciating my work and I want to give you a bit more of myself. Not that what I had initially given was fragments in that sense, but being able to open up, because when you open up to someone or when someone reaches out a hand, you also reach out yours. So it was a series of gratitude, but it was also a series explaining kind of where I am in each point of my life. So every month did have a theme. In the beginning, which would be last year, I did have themes of trying to find home, trying to clear my mind. So each week would, perhaps for the month, the theme would be clarity. So week 1 would be, let me clear my mind, let me clear the space, let me clear the smoke. So it was just unpacking sometimes random thoughts, sometimes unpacking events and that kind of thing. So kind of giving people a dose of my art for those who want it, because it's also important to know who it is you write for. It's important for you to know that, and when I say know, I mean know the general demographic, yes, but then also know name by name that these are the people who support me.
Yeah.
So if ever I need someone, these are the people I reach out to.
Petronella, this has been really, really insightful. I just want to give you a moment before I wind up to speak to your people, the people that extend their hands out to you, and the people you extend your hand back out to in return. What's 2021 looking like in the mind frame or mind space of an artist? What are you scheming about, or what are you plotting on? And yeah, let them know what's up.
Okay, so I will start off by saying thank you. It's no small feat, even though a click of the button may seem like not much, but I do thank you. I will say for 2021, it's more honesty. I've decided to govern my this year. Not saying that I've claimed this year, because I feel like when everybody claimed 2020, all the luck finished, all the favor finished, and then it was wild. But 2021 is being governed by 3 or 4 themes, which is release, it's discipline, and consistency. So being able to give my all to this, as if unto the Lord, being able to be consistent, because it's one thing to be disciplined and then have this task done and that's it, but trying to make this a consistent thing is something I've struggled with, and I want to be able to know that there is accountability. When you decide to look upon my art, you know that I expect this at this time, at this point, and I know she will deliver and she will be there for me. And release is just about being more honest. I'm not the easiest to get to know, and I'm not the easiest to read. So making it easier for people.
That's a good pun.
Making it easier for people to understand why I am the way I am and my thought process, because there's no one way. And I do believe that it's not just an attribute of being a woman, but it's also something that I've been gifted by God in order to think in these different ways and being able to bring out one thing in many different ways. And I just want to be able to share that kind of thinking, that kind of perspective with the people who do listen to me.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We are really lucky to have Petronella in the house, supporting the culture, supporting creativity, supporting a Zambia that is more accommodating of artistic endeavors and helping us uplift it. We are still going to look into better ideas or ways in which we can not only promote but create more viable avenues for creatives to be able to sustain their art.
Yeah.
And with time, I believe we'll be able to set up some of these networks and some of these sort of conducive environments where this can happen. We're lucky that she's going to share some pieces with us. And just as I exit, I would love to wish everybody a prosperous new year. I would love to wish everybody a safe new year. Please adhere to all the rules and regulations which we currently need to abide by to stay safe. And I wish you love, light, peace, blessings, and prosperity. I jotted down a few words as an ode to what Petronella is doing for the poetic scene in Zambia, and they are as follows. Perhaps the deepest, darkest, and dreadful fear is to return to the very dust from which we came from without leaving a mark, difference, or stain, without leaving parts of oneself imprinted onto people's memories, legacies, or some form of genetic continuity. This is the culture.
There was a day that you could approach me and my chest would open up like the arms of an unchained hurricane, ready to take you in, reroute your sorrow, uproot the premise that promised you rue, but home doesn't feel like it used to. It feels quiet, like the room before communion, like hands covering body, claiming warmth for itself. It feels like learning to fly in cold weather. I believe home should be a place, a network, tangible, buildings. I believe home should be towers of Babel looking for brothers like themselves, like bed sheets building bonds between beds, blankets forming bridges that only bed rest could shake when I was younger. Traveling and leaving memories behind was an event I've done more times than I've played hide and seek. I've seen roads roll into themselves. I've seen faces disappear. Home should have been here. Within these four walls I commune in, but it's not so easy when the physical decay, when it has an expiration date, so maybe home should be people. Sober enough to actually welcome us home. Let man be the vessel that our dreams that so often evade find grace to exist. Let it give us the courage we have missed to rip off these masks that made us feel common. This feeling happens often. I just want to be home. So let the people that I meet them manifest blessed visions of Yahweh, words covered in flesh, refreshed when I see pieces of home float by. So let me catch these, match these to missing wants, rewrite my wants and the need to wholly be free, because I found out that home should always be me.